I am thrilled today to be able to introduce our speaker. She's a friend and someone I think very highly of, and she is with us today, and her name is Eileen Button. Eileen graduated from Roberts Wesleyan College in 1989 and has been one of our many successful communication alumni as a writer and a speaker. Most recently, she authored The Waiting Place, Learning to Appreciate Life's Little Delays, a little book about being real while waiting for life's plans and dreams to come true. It is a book that I read this summer, and I highly recommend it. It left me with a sense that I had spent time with a dear friend, laughing, crying, and sharing life's journey. Eileen has worked as an adjunct communication professor, columnist, career counselor, and elementary library paraprofessional. These days, she spends her days with great books and some of the coolest people on earth, AKA librarians and library staff, as the community relations manager for the Genesee District Library. According to her bio, she continues to wrestle with the waiting place, seeking beauty and humor in the dusty corners. Eileen is married to Brad, also a Roberts Wesleyan College alum, and is the mother of 3 children, including Christina, a sophomore here at Roberts Wesleyan. Please help me welcome to the podium, Eileen Button.
I cannot even tell you how happy I am to be with you here today. It's like a big party. If you grew up camping, perhaps you've played the game Bigger and Better. Now, the object is to trade up. You start out with something little someone gives you, like maybe a bag of marshmallows. And then you go to the next campsite and ask, you want to trade? And they might trade you a package of graham crackers. You go to the next campsite. Maybe they give you a package of hot dogs. You go to the next one. Maybe they give you some steak if you're lucky. You go to the next, they might give you a camp chair. You get the idea. The object is to trade up, to get the biggest and the best thing. And the trick is not to trade away something good, like steak, for something undesirable, like maybe a broken camp chair. You know, some people are great traders, and some people aren't. Kyle McDonald, who is a Canadian blogger, is an awesome trader. What he had in his hand was a red paperclip. What he wanted was a house. It only took him 14 trades, and with the help of the internet and some really awesome swaps, he was handed the keys to a house for free. Not too shabby. We might not like the idea of trading, and to be honest, I doubt there are very many expert gamblers in this room. But the truth is, we are trading all the time. Whenever we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to something else. When we say yes to new friendships, we're saying no to loneliness. When we say yes to understanding someone else's perspective, we're saying no to judgment. When we say yes to learning something new, we're saying no to ignorance. And when we say yes to a new adventure, we're saying no to living a mundane life. Now, since we're trading all the time, I figured today I would come and talk to you a little bit about the rules of trading. And since I'm just a little bit further down the road than most of us here, I thought maybe you could learn from some of my good trades and some of my bad ones. The first rule of trading is to trade wisely. Now, this is tricky because just like the camping game, it's important to remember that bigger doesn't always mean better. So here's my trade. When I was pretty much your age, I traded a full ride gymnastics scholarship to attend Roberts Wesleyan College. I was a senior in high school, and my parents were divorcing. And I remember specifically the day that my dad said, now listen, We couldn't afford to send you to college before all this, but now that we're getting a divorce, we definitely can't send you to college. I said, I don't know, Dad, I gotta go. I just have to go to college. And at the time, I was a competitive gymnast. Now, I'll tell you this, I was no Simone Biles. But I was offered a full ride to Hofstra University, and that is located in Long Island. I went, and I gotta tell you, within just a very short amount of time, I knew I was completely in the wrong place. I was a brand new Christian who was in love with Jesus. And I wanted to go to a college where it meant more whether or not we were partying on the weekends. I wanted something way more than that. And so I made a trade. I knew someone who was going to Roberts, and 3 weeks into my freshman year, I transferred here. Now, this was not what others would call a wise trade. It meant I gave up a sport that had helped to define me, and also the prestige of living in Long Island. It meant some thought I just couldn't cut it, and I had to swallow my pride for a while. And it also meant that I incurred some school debt that took me several years to repay. But it was so worth it. My trade gave me an education that taught me to think. A new sport, track, which honestly I ended up loving way more than gymnastics. It gave me friendships that have grown stronger over time. It gave me a faith to hold tightly to when life's road got really tricky. And it gave me an alma mater that feels like home to this day. My trade might not have looked wise in the eyes of others, but it was one of the best decisions I have ever made. And I have to tell you, I have never once regretted it. Here's the second rule of trading. Consider the cost. There's a cost in every trade. We might trade face-to-face relationships for online relationships and then wonder, why do I feel so lonely? We might trade our integrity for a few extra bucks on our tax return and then wonder, why is my conscience barking at me? We might trade authentic faith for partisan politics and then wonder why our belief in God can be commingled with so much anger. Sometimes we need to calculate the literal costs of the trade. I've seen people trade old cars for new cars that they weren't ready to afford. I've seen newlyweds trade their really cute apartments for mortgages that they were not ready to pay for. And I've seen very close friends trade their dreams for the golden handcuffs. They're miserable at their life and at their jobs, but they feel they cannot leave to pursue their dreams because the pay and the benefits are simply too good. Now, sometimes it's tricky to consider the costs because you don't always know what the costs might be. Let me tell you about a time where I failed at that. After my husband, Brad, and I graduated from Roberts, got married, went to graduate school, and had a baby, we made the very tough decision to move our family from Rochester, New York, to Center City, Philadelphia, to start a brand new church. Now, Brad and I didn't grow up going to church or knowing much about Jesus at all. I grew up a holiday Catholic, and Brad grew up with no church affiliation. He gave his life to Christ on this campus at a fall chapel service, much like this. He was completely changed. Completely. Jesus had transformed his life, and he wanted nothing more than to share that love with the world. Once we were married and Brad decided to pursue ministry, we were asked to consider starting this new church in Philadelphia. And this was a bold move, and we knew it was really risky, but we were dying for that adventure. And so church leaders asked us point blank, okay, how much do you need to make to survive? And here's the truth. We lowballed. We wanted to live sacrificially, and we didn't want to be a financial burden on a church that wasn't even started yet. And consequently, we failed to consider the cost of what it took to live in one of America's most expensive cities. We traded 2 full-time secure jobs here in Rochester for one that barely put us over the poverty limit. And under the guise of God will provide, we failed to set ourselves up to win. Brad worked 80 hours a week, and I filled in the gaps at Eastern University by teaching, and the emotional and financial sacrifice took its toll. After 4 years of barely making ends meet and of working our tails off, we made the decision to trade once again in order to save our marriage and our family. We said goodbye to people we had grown to love, along with the city of brotherly love, and we put aside a dream to find our feet again. Although that experience broke our hearts, we actually learned a lot from that initial bad trade. We learned we needed very little to survive. We learned the value of simplicity and of doing without. We learned that really God does provide, although not always in the way that you think he will. And sometimes he provides a way out. That experience made us wiser, more cautious, more thoughtful, more empathetic toward others, especially those who are experiencing financial struggle. It also drove home the quote, "Every single person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind, always." You might say that this leads to the third rule of trading. And the third rule is cut your losses. It's like that Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler. You have to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. Perhaps cutting your losses is trickiest of all because it's never easy to admit when you're wrong, and it's difficult to at least have to change course. Cutting your losses is always tough and usually painful. Sometimes you have to end an unhealthy relationship, even if you've invested several years. Sometimes we need to leave a job in order to make room for a new opportunity. And sometimes we need to make a decision for the sake of love and family. So I made my most recent big trade 1 month ago. I demoted myself. For several years, I worked as a columnist and an author and an adjunct professor of communication at the local college, just like Dr. Porterfield said. And all that might sound very impressive, but I have to tell you, it was unpredictable at best. And I was at a point in my life where I needed something more steady and predictable, something that had, quite frankly, a steady paycheck. So I traded. I traded writing and teaching for a full-time job with benefits. I landed what really looked like my dream job as this community relations manager for the Genesee District Library. But like all trades, you don't always know what you're getting. And I soon found myself working constantly. I was in charge of hundreds of programs for 19 libraries serving 100,000 patrons. I was in charge of the Summer Reading Challenge for 6,000 children, and also the annual programming that was attended by 35,000 throughout my county. I wrote commercials, I developed marketing campaigns, worked with the media, and managed our social media. And all this would have been okay, wonderful even, if it was the only thing going on in my life. But like most lives, mine has many more aspects to it. As my job bled into all of its inhabitable corners, it pushed out things like time for family, marriage, friendship, laughter, writing, running, everything. And so, after 2.5 years of working my buns off, I cut my losses and downsized my life. I took a lesser title and cut my hours and, of course, my pay. Once again, I had to swallow my pride, and this time for an organization that I really fiercely believe in. And so the question is, was the trade worth it? Ask me in a year. All I know is that I can breathe again. I can spend time with my sister, who's battling stage 4 metastasized cancer, and my mother, who's battling Parkinson's, both who live 6 hours away from me. I can be here with you at my favorite campus in the entire universe on the last Monday in August. I have time to write again. Laughter has seeped in to my life, and the stories that I've placed away in psychological storage have begun to whisper again. I can hear them. I'm taking notes. I feel like I'm coming back to life. Henry David Thoreau said, "Most men and women lead lives of quiet desperation and go into the grave with their songs still in them." I don't know about you, but I don't want that kind of epitaph. I want to live. And so all this begs the question, where do we start? Now. Here's what I know. Today, this day, is all we have. Don't trade it away. I know how it is, okay? I know. Ever since you were a child, you've been asked. You've been told you gotta do well in school. What are you interested in? What do you gotta do well in school so you can go to college, so you can get your great job? And college is often seen as some kind of bridge to skip quickly over in order to get to your real life. But here's what they don't tell you. This is real life. It's happening right now, and it's stinking awesome. When I sat where you're sitting right now, I used to hate it when someone would say to me, "Enjoy it, these are the best years of your life." I was like, seriously? So after I graduate, it's all downhill. It's not true, of course. But I know this. These 4 years, they are the only years you'll get in your entire life to do what you're doing right now. That's it. Lucky you, you'll get to work for the next 45 years. Why are you in a rush? Don't trade them away. You'll be tempted. You will, because every single day someone will ask you what you're studying and what you plan to do with it. And it can make you feel like now doesn't matter, but it does. Thoreau also said he went to the woods because he wished to live deliberately. I'm going to edit his famous quote. That's what we writers try to do. We edit other famous people, right? People are way more famous than we are. And I want to edit it to read. "I went to Roberts because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. Don't be concerned about getting out of college. Instead, pull a Thoreau and suck the marrow out of it. Stay up late, talking, laughing, eating pizza, and solving the world's problems. Make garbage plate runs, pizza runs, coffee runs. Run to wherever you can. Just do it together. Get involved on campus. I promise you, if you do, you might actually find your life's calling. Make friends with your professor. They might actually take you to dinner. You think I'm kidding? They will. They will. Don't be so concerned about finding your life partner. Don't look to graduate with the MRS degree. Instead, look for friends. These are the people who will carry you out through your entire life. Explore faith in the God who adores you. Ask questions. Pray with others. Ask people to pray with you. There are no stupid questions when it comes to faith. Ask them. Yes, as you travel this winding road, you'll be making trades each and every day. It will be a battle, a big one. People you love will want you to trade what is best for what is good every day. They don't mean to do it, it's just all they know. They will want you to have the better fill in the blank: job, career, house, opportunity, community, city, whatever. But sometimes those things come at such a terrible cost of our ability to think and create and be and live. Don't trade the essence of who you are, your creativity, your passions, and your heartbeat for some kind of cubicle, cookie-cutter life. In her book, Big Magic, awesome book, by Elizabeth Gilbert, she says it this way: you have treasures hidden within you, extraordinary treasures, and so do I, and so does everyone around us. And bringing those treasures to light takes work and faith and focus and courage and hours of devotion, and the clock is ticking and the world is spinning, and we simply do not have time anymore to think so small. So trade wisely. Consider the costs and cut your losses if you must. And remember the scripture that was read by Craig from Ecclesiastes. Each and every day of your precarious life, each day is God's gift. It's all you get in exchange for the hard work of staying alive. Make the most of each one. Amen? Amen.